Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Retro RPG. The end of another week, the end of another poll. We've got a very clear winner for Immortal: The Invisible War. But let's be honest, it probably only won because I asked you to vote for it last week. But now I know I've got this power to sway people. I've got to work out a way of turning it into world domination. But in the meantime, we'll have a look at this on the desktop in a wee second. And I'll be back at the end of the video with some other channel related news and some other poll related news. But before I do that, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my Patreons, who this week I have been advised have the most winning smiles in the world. And they sway my heart, not just through their winning smiles, but by their beautiful contributions to help support the channel, which is very much appreciated. Now, if you'd like to join them and help support the channel, or you'd like to see these videos a week early, or you'd like to take advantage of one of the other levels of Patreon we've got, so to get access to my writings or become a real honest-to-goodness fake laird of Scotland, then the link to the Patreon's in the description down below. If you check it out, it'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's have a look at Immortal: The Invisible War. So, this is Immortal: The Invisible War. Not that you can make out the entire title, because there's a sticker which seems to have perpetually bonded to the page. I've tried to pick it off a few times, but it just keeps ripping. But anyway, this is Immortal: The Invisible War. It's by Precedence Publishing, or Precedence Entertainment, as they sometimes call themselves. Nice little logo on the back cover there as well. Came out in 1994. And it's a very 90s game. The artwork, you can see, starting to use computers in the creation of it. That was one of the main things, and we'll see lots more of that as we flick through the pages. But it's very much like the World of Darkness. So it's set in the current day, or the 90s version of the current day. And it's the real world, but with magic in it. In this case, immortals. But Immortal: The Invisible War sins in two ways that really annoy me about a role-playing game. First of all, by redefining terms. So as we can see on the cover here, the alternative personality role-playing experience. It's not a role-playing game, it's a alternative personality role-playing experience. And that's something Immortal does a lot. If we flip through the pages, we can see that virtually every page has these concepts on them, where it's defining terms. Now, a lot of these are within the game world, so you have to remember what a lathe is, what all these different things are as you read through to understand what the text is going on about. And I'm afraid my memory just isn't up to remembering dozens of new terms and slotting them in as I read through. So I found this a very difficult read. But also it redefines game terms themselves. So the games master is a narrator. Now, I have no problem with that. Narrator is an acceptable term. But it redefines characters, everything. It's got to have its own names for absolutely everything, and I find that very, very annoying. It also, the second sin, we will see if we go onto the back cover. So, Immortal. Even legends cannot sleep forever. You were there when the Sanguinary fled the crucible, when the Sphinx was not stone but flesh, when Paris slew Achilles before Troy, when Arthur wept, betrayed. You knew. The force that compelled Jack's knife in London, the painter Adolph, who set out to purify the world, the sniper whose bullet claimed Kennedy's life in Dallas. Then you took a long walk into forgetfulness, and things have only gotten worse. It's wake-up time. The age of innocence has ended. Immortal personas everywhere are waking up to a new experience in role-playing unprecedented in any previous gaming system. Merlin, Hercules, Marilyn Monroe, these and other figures of legend are very much alive and influencing affairs in the mortal habitat, just as they have for millennia past. You are the fabric of legend. Now is the time to come shed mortal illusion and resume your place in perpetual society, to awake and rediscover the secrets of your own fantastic past. So, you play an immortal. Now, immortals don't just live forever, but one of the things they tend to do is shed their personality and get reborn. So you're more an immortal soul being reborn in new bodies, and you get to experience the world in a new way, which is kind of an interesting idea for immortal. They get to learn new ages from afresh. But you are one of these ancient spirits. You've been various things before. Before mankind rose, you are like animals. And you contain those animals still within you, and can shapeshift and have various abilities like that. But also, you've been Adolf Hitler, Marilyn Monroe, Gandhi, various famous people from throughout history. Because, as I mentioned, a sin that I don't like, Humans have done nothing. None of the big things in the world are actually human responsible. If we start flicking through, we'll see this. Now, the artwork's pretty interesting. As I said, it's been modified by computer art throughout. There's some very nice ink artwork, though. But we've got strange fusions like this, because the artist is trying to fuse the fantastic elements with human models. We carry on through. We've got some nice colour plates. These are done in a similar style. We've got the chronology of the Immortals, and this is where we start to see that humans did nothing. Shakespeare accepts patronage from the Magdalene, and later tries to escape their influence. The dust is cornered in London. The pride set the city on fire to destroy their enemy. So the Great Fire of London. Joan of Arc breaks Magdalene convictions and burned at the stake. Kublai Khan is assassinated by the Dracul. Nostradamus takes control of the Apocrypha. Spring-Heel's Jack, well, surely that should be Spring-Heeled Jack. A Magdalene medical experiment begins to terrorize England. The Titanic is sunk by the Leviathan. First appearance of the Silhouette, the current avatar in Sanguinary. An internal power struggle within the Pride Eremite results in Germany's bid for world conquest. World War II results. Gandhi, former member of the Pride Eremite, is assassinated after supporting the rogue pride, the Celestials. JFK is assassinated by the byproduct of an Arachne plot. Everything is the product of the Immortals. Humans have done nothing throughout history, and that annoys me. We are an incredible species, and we have done incredible good and bad things, but our history is our own. Anyway, we get into a nice story. As I said, the artwork's kind of eye-catching. It does look a bit weird in ways. The early computer aspects to it do make it look slightly odd. Very plasticky. A story getting us into the world. And then we've got various letters between the different groups to introduce us to it. Ingenuity and role-playing. Ennui. Pride. Involving all these concepts. Dust. We go into the sort of introduction. Mythology never died, nor did the creatures whose eternal lives inspired it. I love the boastfulness of this section. Immortal: The Invisible War is more than a roleplay game. It is an experience which transcends the limitations imposed by era, genre, culture, and gender. Your persona, the ingenuity, after hiding in the mirage of a normal twilight life, is about to be catapulted into worlds drenched in the intrigue of the ages. Now in Chrysalis, you're about to emerge from the cocoon of the life you knew and soar into the power of your own past. So you're playing an ordinary person who's waking up to the fact that they have one of these immortal souls, that they were somebody, and they're involved in all this society and everything. I'll do a rules breakdown on this. The rules are kind of interesting, but I'll keep flicking through. Now, it introduces lots and lots of concepts, including the anatomy of the immortals, their psychology, the way they're affected. So, immortals, for example, cannot get rid of poison except by use of palladium. But poison doesn't necessarily kill them quickly. They can keep it for millennia or even longer. Regenerarium. They are influenced by human thoughts and desires. They have taints. They have companions. Animals of the type they were seem to gravitate towards them. We've got guidance here, so talking through various bits. The dice themselves, you use 6 10-sided dice, each of the following colours: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. So you need different coloured dice. And you also need black, grey, and white. So you need 9 dice, all of different colours, D10s, which seems kind of weird. We talk through the characteristics, because the characteristics of the immortals are their colours. So red is resolved, how intelligent and willful they are. Orange is their physical strength. Yellow is their dexterity, balance, and coordination. Green is how much they enjoy the clash of combat. Blue is their sight, instinct, and general attention to detail. Violet is the stamina and vitality of them. One of the things I really do like that they've introduced is that the immortals basically have an energy field around them which affects other immortals. So if they're fighting, they can hack away at each other and do serious damage. Stand a chance of killing one another. But at range, their weapons pass out of their field. So being shot by a mortal or an immortal does very little damage, and they can regenerate from that very quickly. But if it's in very close hand-to-hand combat, it can do far more. System terms. So actor, any individual that takes an immortal story by assuming a persona. So you're actors and you haven't got a player character, you've got a persona. You've got escapades, exploits, hostiles. Any dice you're rolling is called a hostile, because you are rolling to see if you fail, not to see if you succeed. Narrators, taint, vogue, all these terms, which I found so very annoying. We've got the talk of the politics starting 65,000 years before Christ. And if we go back to the history, because I kind of skipped over that, the history actually starts 65 million years before Christ. But we've got all the building up of the immortal world. Outside the stratagem, so different powers within this magical world. What the governments think of them, whether they're aware, what the mortal world thinks, the various groups, the Dracul, the Banjaks, the Eremites, the Morrigan, the Magdalene, the Phoenix, talking about what all these are. And these will come in further when we reach the creating characters, basically. Different callings. As I said, they will also come in. So we talk about creating a character. We talk about the different power levels. So, Red Halo, if you've got 0, you're mentally retarded, trainable, no self-control. Up to 15, most potent immortals known. Mortal intellect seems insect-like by comparison. Everything goes on a range of 0 to 15. And it details through what all the different halos do, how the persona gets awoken, their predilections, costs for forte and free immaculum motes. So as I said, so many different terms. Then we're on to the callings. Now these are the roles that the immortals play within immortal society. We have the callings and their clans, let's say. I can't remember the right term. We're going to reach in a few pages. But the callings are Sleeper, Emissary, Highbinder, Juggler, Slayer, Keeper, Probe, Scourge. That's a very odd picture. I think it's supposed to be a female by the breasts, but the face looks very male to me. I do like the giant geode in the background, though. And then we've got prides. These are the clans, the groups, which the immortals form themselves into. So we've got Anopheles, the hungry ones, Arachne, the trap weavers, Banjaks, the destroyers, Dracul, the dragon speakers, Eremites, the crusaders, Magdalene, the pedagogues, Morrigan, the storm masters, Nimrod, the hunters, Pizzi, the children of war, Phoenix, the torchbearers, Tautha, the guardians, Tezat, the unfettered, or Terat. The font's a bit unclear, I'm not quite sure what it's trying to say. And then we've got the very interesting character sheet. So we've got these different things which are basically your attributes. We've got their talents, the different attentions they have, whatever weapons and taboos they have. So we've got the Genesis here talking us through creating your persona. And you're creating the person that you are, who's gaining access to their immortal traits later on. And we've got a questionnaire to help you shape your character out. I really do like that. It's very nice. Lots of questions, what's your most recurring dream? Describe your perfect meal. To create your character and know so much more about them than just a bunch of numbers on a page. We've got talents. These are the skills. When you're attempting things, these are all based on one of the auras. So if you are untrained, you are using that aura -5. If you are a laureate, you're using it +5. So hence why those got to 15. because you can have a -5 and you're rolling a d10. So there's still a chance of failing, especially as a natural 0 or a natural 10 is an automatic fail. For various costs, then we've got big lists, so aggressions for the yellow talent here. Now I do find these slightly odd, because the first ones, the academic skills, use a red. We've got anatomy and archaeology, languages, microbiology. For aggressions, we've got archery, crossbow, demolitions, fencing, light sleep, lip reading. I can see how they're useful in combat, but those don't seem to be combat skills. We've got the gentiles, so acrobatics, gourmet, heraldry. Legacies, we've got art, esteem, faith. Remedies, acupuncture, first aid, forensics, and those kind of things. Urbanes, computers, criminology, more modern skills. Sleuthing, scouting. We've got a description of the combat system here. As I said, the artwork is very common throughout. It all looks slightly odd in that 90s computer-generated fashion. But it's nice enough. The ink artwork is a bit crude. It's not as nice as some of the World of Darkness stuff, the White Wolf stuff. Definitely not as good as Shadowrun, which was absolutely outstanding. But it's serviceable enough. I kind of like this one, for example. Anyway, carrying on through the combat section where we detail all of those kind of things. A very blurred out ink art type version of a photograph, I'm guessing. Different powers, example of combats. Then we've got Serenade. We introduce how Serenades work. As weapon damage in melee combat is ultimately applied against the violet halo, damage and effects of Serenades are usually applied against one of the 6 halo colours. So Serenades are your magic. Types of Serenade. Tempests, Evoques, Bastions, Charms. Detailing lots of abilities here. Gematria. You can divide yourself into separate components that make up your Himsati form. As I said, Himsati form, I'm not really sure. I would need to go and look it up. Ichor, Iris, Inroad, Incantations, Looking Glass. Just lots and lots of different abilities, the different types of magic. And I've got a section on the world. So we've got the Immortal world, the habitat, the blue air, because the Immortals can kind of access different dimensions, which they call the dominions. So we've got the mantles, the morphium, Sheol the grave, the underworld, the Sunedrian, I'm pronouncing that terribly, Ease, the crucible, the maelstrom. We've got the production. So, our world was shaped by mythology. In this modern television age, we see stories brought to us time and time again that explore the exciting fantasy that's been with us, our kind, for thousands of years. So it's talking about making the stories. Getting started, the setting, the acting, how to present things to stay in the Immortal, the Invisible War style, warding memory and visage. Reclaim tainted immaculum. So these are extra rules here. Things like choosing taboos. So the Immortal cannot cross a threshold without knocking. Knives or other bladed weapons dull in the Immortal's hands. -1 to damage. And we've got different levels as they become limited by the taboos laid upon them by failures. We've got advancement. So advancing your character, gaining extra abilities. And Nivalia, which I believe is a sample adventure. We've got various characters here to use within it. Tool of the crime, different sections of an introductory adventure. And then we've got a lexicon laying out lots of the terms and some quick charts at the very back. So damage of different weapons, non-firearm missile weapons, different types of firearms, Appendix 2, an afterword, and different things which will be coming out for Immortal or would have been coming out in 1994. They're obviously out long since now. The Pilot Pack, the Deluxe Dice Set, Lost Trinity, the Book of Callings, an Immortal t-shirt. Join us at Club Eternity, the multimedia roleplay experience. And that is it. Now, Immortal the Invisible War has so many great ideas in there. It's absolutely fascinating. The rules are slightly annoying. As I said, I'll do a rules breakdown and we'll deal with that further. But it does have these big problems that the world is all about the Immortals. It's not like the world of darkness, where humans have now shaped the world, and the werewolves and vampires are living in the world that humans have created, and learning to adapt to it. It's that the Immortals have shaped the world completely, and everything important was always done by an Immortal. So that was Immortal the Invisible War, and that won the poll this week with some 30% of the vote, which, even though I asked you to vote that way, is still only narrowly ahead of Infantry Weapons of the World for Twilight 2000, which came in on 26%. And to tell the truth, that would have been a lot easier to cover, because it is basically just an equipment book, so it would have been pretty quick to look through and do a video on. But Immortal won, and I did that. Behind that was Spycraft, which came in on 24%. Now this is another standalone RPG, but one that's based on the D20 system. So the 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons rules, basically. But it's another modern version, and it'd been interesting to see how it stacked up against D20 Modern, which I did love the way it updated the D20 system. After that, on only 14%, was Fading Suns D20, another D20 system, but the Fading Suns is a setting that I've covered before, various editions of, an absolutely great, interesting science fiction setting, so it would have been fun to look through. And finally, we've got Hidden Agendas for Aeon Trinity, which came in on only 6%. Which is kind of weird, because there's been a lot of activity on my Aeon Trinity videos lately. People commenting on them, and I wondered if that would convert into votes in the poll. Well, obviously it didn't. They'd watched the videos and then they moved on. So, obviously no point in pandering to those. Anyway, they're all cleared out of the poll this week, and we're back to a Retro Adventures poll. And I did have a theme planned, but I decided other things caught my eye and the theme fell apart. I was going to do sequels to adventures I've already covered, but alas, too many other interesting things were on my shelves. So, first of all, we've got Valley of the Mists for Bushido. Now this is another one where there's been a lot of activity in the comments of my Bushido videos, because Bushido, for a game which came out in the early 80s, was very innovative in that its random encounter tables basically allowed you to solo play the role-playing game. It'd be fascinating to see what a pre-published adventure was like for that. And this is the one that came in the box for Bushido, so it'd be great to have a look through. Next up, we've got Scared Stiffs for the Ghostbusters RPG from 1987. Now, I've covered Ghost Toasties for this, and a lot of people found that very funny, so it'd be fun to carry on through. There were only 3 adventures for Ghostbusters RPG First Edition, before they updated it to Ghostbusters International when Ghostbusters 2, the movie, came out. But they're absolutely hilarious, and it'd be fun to cover through them. Next up, we've got Bottle Demon for Shadowrun. Now, this is a very early one. This came out in 1990. And I remember playing this and it being absolutely great fun. So I'd love to cover it. After that, we've got San Francisco Nights for Cyborg Commando. Now, Cyborg Commando has been the butt of some of my jokes for a while, but it'd be interesting to see what the adventures are like, because this is Gary Gygax's work after he moved on from Dungeons & Dragons onto a science fiction setting. So it'd be interesting to see what the adventures were like. And if I end up covering it, and the video's successful, while I've only got this one adventure, I do know somebody who has all the 3 adventures for Cyborg Commando, so I could borrow them and cover them at some future point. But we'll see what happens. And finally, we've got Gentleman's Agreement for Spycraft. Now, this is supposed to be a kind of different type of adventure, and it's for Spycraft, which obviously lost the last poll. So it'd be interesting to cover an adventure, but I have a feeling it's not going to be massively successful. Over on RPG Gamer this month, or this week rather, I'm still covering the Young Jedi Adventures series, working my way through the episodes. We've now got about 3 weeks until Ahsoka comes out, but I've got about 5 episodes left to cover of Young Jedi Adventures. It's been quite fun, obviously targeted to a young audience, but it's nice coming up with some interesting stats, especially during the High Republic era. So if you're interested in the D6 system and you want to check those out, then rpggamer.org. On DriveThruRPG, I've been publishing a bunch of adventure ideas for the Cyberpunk RPG. I'll put a link to my DriveThruRPG in the description down below. And obviously, Patreons of Librarian or Laird status get access to all of those. They're uploaded to a shared Google Drive. The Discord has been very quiet, but I've pasted some questions in there because we're about to end the house rules videos. There's only a couple more in there, unless on Discord you let me know what I've forgotten to do. But I'm asking about what series to move on to that, because I've had various people asking for different things. And I want to know which one I should do first. I'll get around to them all eventually, but it'd be nice to know which way I should focus my attention first. But I think I've whittled on for quite long enough as usual, so thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.